This podcast is rated S for spoilers. Listener discretion is advised. Don't forget to view our spoiler-free companion video on our Half Past Podcast channel on YouTube. Half Past Podcast. This is episode 58, the movie review of Kong Skull Island. We'll also be discussing the Power Rangers trailer. I'm Graham Ricks, and here with me is my friend and co-pilot, Ian Jones.
You're looking a little scruffy there this week, my friend.
I'm looking a little bit more scruffy. I'm getting a little bit of scruff here. I got that 10-day growth kind of thing that's going on there. Yeah. That some of the ladies like, but that's not mine though. But
well, this is in a reason because we talked about this last week because you were looking quite young again, and your girlfriend did not like it.
No, she definitely prefers the beard.
So that's the first thing I noticed, and I've been working on my beard too.
Yeah,
I got a beard kit going.
What is a beard kit, man? What the hell is that?
That is my fancy way of saying little tiny scissors. Just let me have this one thing, all right?
I'm trying to figure out what you need little scissors for.
Okay, well, here's my theory. Because of my Pacific Islander genetics.
Yes, you have a little bit of Filipino in you.
So the thing is, it's enough to where, I really need to be careful about this beard to make sure it comes in correctly.
Yes.
Because I have the same issue that, people like Keanu Reeves have.
Where it doesn't come in
it doesn't come in
full. It comes in like a patch. But there's ways to make that look clean.
Yes,
which is what movie stars do.
Right, and you know how I'm always concerned about looking like a movie star, so hence the beard kit.
Nice.
All right. So
it's so weird because I'm trying to figure out the concept of scissors because I always just use beard trimmers, so I just trim the beard with that. So I never even think about scissors ever. This is one of those things,
right?
What
that's fine. I think once you get to a certain point, I've really thought about this for many years now. Yeah. Going to the beard thing, and we'll see if my girlfriend likes it. But the appropriate steps are being taken. Let's say
it's one of those things where if it starts coming in patchy, typically if you have a shadow, like a nice shadow, which you definitely have, it will grow in fully. It's just that it grows in at different times.
Correct.
So what they advise you to do is to trim and just let it keep growing, and eventually it'll fill out.
True.
So now, and that's just how it is because yours just happens to grow at different times, but you do have a crazy shadow though, at all times.
Here's the thing: the best thing to do is like a Walking Dead sort of scenario where you're in a coma and you get the coma beard going because then it just goes crazy. And all you have to do is cut, and you're in style. You're immediately in style, walking out of a coma. Now, you have to deal with zombies and stuff, and you have to track down your family, and no one's gonna like you because you're the sheriff.
It's funny you say that because there's actually a scene in Kong Skull Island where he's just ridiculous and he ends up trimming his beard.
Right. Yes.
So
good segue.
Relating it to the movie. Well, the thing is we're about to start talking about Power Rangers, so it's actually a terrible segue.
Okay. Yeah. No one has a beard in Power Rangers.
No one has a beard in Power Rangers.
So there's our segue.
Oh, nice.
They're just kids and no one has a beard.
Right? Speaking of the fact that they're kids, do you think we're going to get in this movie? I keep forgetting that character's name.
The Green Ranger? Are we going to get the Green Ranger?
No, the guy that's always talking to him, that's being played by, whatchamacallit this time around. Is he going to say that Zord, yes. Is he going to say, I want teenagers with attitude? Because that's what he said in the TV show back when I was a kid.
I'm sure he's going. But here's the thing. Here's how the trailers are making it look. Because they're doing those puns, but they're making those references, but they're doing it in a different way.
Yes, they are.
So what I believe is going to happen is one of them, probably the Asian guy who's playing Zach.
Yes.
Zach, if you'll remember, is the black guy who's awesome.
Yes.
Is now Asian for the movie.
Well, they decided to be inherently less racist in this one.
A little less racist.
Because, we have to talk about this.
Okay,
in the TV show, the Black Ranger was black, the Yellow Ranger was Asian, and the Pink Ranger was a woman. And so they were really trying to...
white girl.
Amy Jo Johnson, who's like... in that Flashpoint Canadian show now, which is so weird.
She was also Susie Q, and I know you know that.
I definitely know Susie Q. I know Susie Q. Mm-hmm. But she actually, our buddy Mike, I was watching Flashpoint, and he came over one night, and he was just like, we were watching this terrible Flashpoint show. It's one of those shows that's terrible, but it's kind of addicting to watch, and it's inherently Canadian, so it just kind of feels great to watch it. But then we're watching it for a little while, and Mike's like, wait a minute, is that the Pink Ranger? And I'm like, yes, it is.
You should have just smacked him in the forehead there. Yes, it is. High forehead, Mike.
That show's 45 minutes long, right? So it's an hour-long show, but it took him till 35 to 40 minutes into the freaking show. He's just like, well, wait a minute, is that the Pink Ranger?
Is that the Pink Ranger? Yes, you idiot.
Oh, that was great, though, man.
Oh.
The only other thing I want to say about this movie is, they're definitely doing a different take, because it almost seems like they're strong and have powers, which is not necessarily the case from the original TV show.
It's a Marvel style version of the Power Rangers.
Right? It's kind of a strange... I don't know if that's a good or a bad choice to do. I just know that I've heard some people talk about how they're just I don't know about the powers thing. That's kind of weird. But I'm sure it'll just make it more fun, right? Yes,
I think so. Just like how when J.J. Abrams took over Star Trek, he made it more fun. I'm a Trekkie. I was a Trekkie. Star Wars is better... But nice. I grew up as a Trekkie.
Oh, okay.
Okay, I grew up as a Trekkie. Nothing beats a lightsaber. That's the thing. That is the ultimate. You can have a nerd fight all you want.
Yes.
But nothing beats a freaking lightsaber.
Well, not just that. I've had discussions about this before. That who would win in a fight. Versus you have Star Wars and Star Trek, and I think the collective thing is that one has warships and the other one does not, right? Because for the most part, Star Trek, most of their vessels are just exploring. They do have military capabilities,
right?
But it's not like the Empire, who actually have warships and squadrons to send out to take a bunch of people out. So it's just kind of one of those weird things. So I think the collective decision is that Star Wars would win.
Yes, and a Star Wars nerd is going to beat up a Star Trek nerd in a fight, which I think is the more important argument.
I'm thoroughly amused by a Star Wars nerd and a Star Trek nerd.
A Star Wars nerd is going to beat up a Star Trek nerd in a fight.
Oh man! Oh my god! I always love the podcasts that go a little off the rails. It just makes it a little bit more.
What were we talking about?
We're supposed to be talking about Power
Okay, so all right, Graham, let's get back on point here. Okay.
All right.
So J.J. Abrams made Star Trek more fun, and here's the thing: it needed to be fun again. And here's my argument, because I grew up as a Trekkie.
Yeah.
And I liked all those shows, but Star Trek was very much dead in the water, and it needs a younger audience. So I think that was the right choice, going to him, doing these movies that way. They had a very, almost like a superhero Marvel Studios sort of feel to how they were. And I think that's the way to go, because it gets younger people into Star Trek and even into science, even into little things, that you may not really associate with just the TV show.
Yeah.
So I really felt like that was important, and he was the right guy to go to, and I think that those movies are a lot of fun. I think that they're doing the same thing with the Power Rangers. That format works, and it's a little bit more accessible if they piggyback off the superhero thing. I think one of the things that surprises me about this is that Jason and Kimberly seem to be the ones who are going to develop a relationship. At least that's how it looks in the trailers.
I can see that.
And in the TV show, there was a much more compelling relationship, because their enemy for a long time was the Green Ranger.
Yes.
And he and Kimberly were the ones who had the relationship. So, for me, I'm wondering where the hell the Green Ranger is in all of this, or is that something that's just going to get teased at the end of the movie?
It's probably going to be something that gets teased at the end of the movie, is what I would assume. I guess the only other thing I have to say about this movie is I already like, I guess, the guy who's playing Zach. I don't even know if their names are the same in this one.
Yeah, they are.
But the Asian guy, he seems like he gets all the funny scenes, and I already like him. And I don't know what it is about that, but, like, how often does that happen where, like, there's something, like, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and make a statement and say we need more Asian actors, right? Because the thing is, hear me out. Now, the thing is some of my favorite characters are starting to be the characters that are played by Asian people, right? So, like, when you watch Walking Dead, Steven Yeun is just awesome, right?
He is, yeah.
Like, it's just awesome. I just love that freaking character, and he's just fantastic in it. Mm-hmm. When we watch The Maze Runner, the guy with the great hair the whole time, awesome character, right?
God damn it, what is his name?
They're on this freaking hiatus with that movie, so I don't know when we're going to get that third movie, but that series is, like, really dear to this podcast because it was how we started. But it's just, like, such a weird thing, but that happens very often. We need to get more Asian actors out there. That's all I'm saying. They just seem to always have really cool characters. Is there anything else you want to go on with this?
Mio is his name.
Mio! Yes!
God damn it.
Mio! That guy is awesome in that freaking movie.
Yeah, he is. But, the thing that drives me nuts is, like, that actor was on Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt, and they were having him do, like, the most stereotypical Asian immigrant accent.
Well, that's
that really, like, was like,
Yeah, that's not
what the hell,
Yeah, that's not fun.
So...
That's terrible.
All right, that's it. That is terrible.
Thanks for the buzzkill.
Nice job, Power Rangers. Somehow this is your fault.
All right, let's go ahead and take a break so we can get into Kong Skull Island. Scientists explore an uncharted island in the Pacific, venturing into the domain of the mighty Kong, and must fight to escape a primal Eden. A primal Eden. I'm not sure what that is
Did you copy that from them?
Whoa.
Hey, what?
We don't need to put it out there that I copy things.
Okay.
Right?
Primal Eden. I guess that's one way of looking at it.
Yep.
I mean,
well, the concept of it is that it's where like God kept experimenting or something like that. Like it was like, or
right?
God stopped, right? It's just kind of what it is. Yeah, I mean that's the storyline of this, which is just absolutely ridiculous aspect.
That's the most science. That's the most science we're gonna get out of this movie, right there. Yes. It's where God stopped experimenting.
Yes. This movie is directed by Jordan Vogt Roberts. I think it's Vogt Roberts. This guy also did The Kings of Summer, the one with Nick Offerman. And he's also slated to do the Metal Gear Solid movie, which we'll have to see how well that goes.
Interesting.
Yeah, he's the one that's supposed to be doing that. Now, Metal Gear Solid is still in development, so it's entirely possible that they might just, switch directors, like if it's just not going to work out or whatever, because that movie in particular has just had a lot of problems. People have been wanting that movie for a very long time. And the people who have the rights to it, and like I think it was a lady who wrote a lot of the story. It's like she's just kind of really cautious about it and everything, and they're trying to work with everybody. So, I mean, everybody wants it to happen, and it would be really cool to see it on screen. But we'll have to see what they do. I would assume that Master Chief would have to be a CG character, though, right?
Wait a minute. What are you talking? Are you talking about Halo, or are you talking about Metal Gear?
Oh crap! Sorry.
Are you talking about the Halo movie?
I'm talking about Halo, but I meant Metal Gear Solid.
Okay.
Did I say Halo?
You did. Yeah. You just said Master Chief.
Okay.
So
I'm mixing
you're
movies
talking about Solid Snake,
I'm talking about
right?
Solid Snake. Not.
All right. Okay. So he's referring to Konami, right?
I'm referring to Konami with Metal Gear Solid. For some weird reason, I went on this tangent about Halo. I have no idea how that happened, but
you were talking about a girl, and a girl is in charge of Halo.
That's what I'm saying. I went on this tangent about Halo because for some weird reason my mind was in Halo, but I want to talk about Metal Gear Solid. Sure. Don't know how that happened. But the fact of the matter is Konami, and then you have, what's his name? God, I always forget. Kojima, right? Is it Hideo Kojima?
Yes.
He's the one who's basically did the whole thing for that for a while, but either way, they definitely have a chance to change directors if they want to or whatever, because it's still in development and they're struggling to figure it out because Konami and Hideo Kojima has like split, and so there's a lot of other so there's a lot of other problems with what's going on in that. So it just kind of is what it is, but it'll be interesting to see that on screen.
It's the split is like a giant middle finger for a lot for like the fans, and so a lot I think a lot of their properties are getting tied up as a result of this happening. Yeah,
it'll be really interesting to see what goes on, because I mean, Hideo Kojima is a freaking genius. Like, all the Metal Gear Solid games have all been very, very good, and he just he's been doing it since like Nintendo, so. It's kind of one of those things. A lot of people forget about that Metal Gear game that he did like way a long time ago on Nintendo. So it's kind of interesting to see what happens with that. Anyway, Kong Skull Island. This movie starring Tom Hiddleston as James Conrad. And I just want to say something right now about Tom Hiddleston.
Sure.
He is all of a sudden in this movie a sexy action star. I almost feel like...
Okay.
I almost feel like he got tired of being next to Chris Hemsworth as Loki, right? Like, I want I want to be the sexy action star, and that's why he did this movie.
Okay.
It is blatant in this movie.
I can't believe you picked up on that. So, yes, he's there to look like a very good-looking Hollywood movie star.
Yes, he is.
And that's how it is. That's how he is in all the shots. So I was going to talk about that later.
We'll get more into it. But I'm just like, where did that come from?
Well, it's tough because he's, like you said, he's always next to Thor.
He's always next to Thor,
and he's always in a weird cape and everything. Yes. So it's like, bam, shirt tucked into pants.
Shirt tucked into the pants. The shirt's like a size or two,
a
too
size
small.
or too small.
Too small. Yeah. He looks like they purposely did this. It's like he worked out a little bit, and he's just like, bam. I just thought it was such a funny thing throughout this entire movie. He's like the sexy action star in this movie. He shows up, like we were talking about, he shows up in the Avengers, but he also is in Crimson Peak, which is just a beautifully good movie. It's just such a beautiful movie.
It's an excellent love story where you get to see his butt, or butt double, I should say. Because there weren't enough moles on that butt. He's British. He's British. That butt was too clean.
Real nice. Samuel L. Jackson is Preston Packard. It's Samuel L. Jackson, so Jurassic Park, Pulp Fiction, Die Hard with a Vengeance. Brie Larson as Mason Weaver. She was in Scott Pilgrim vs. the World, 21 Jump Street, and Don John. John C. Reilly as Hank Marlowe. He was in Boogie Nights, Gangs of New York, and Wreck-It Ralph. John Goodman as Bill Randa, who was in Roseanne, The Big Lebowski, and Monsters, Inc., which just shows you this cast is really it's like we were talking about during the previous podcast. Like this cast is pretty good. It's kind of weird. It is. Yeah, it's like a pretty good. It's a pretty good cast and kind of a weird movie. Corey Hawkins as Houston Brooks. This guy is blowing up. I'm not sure what happened. I don't know who his agent is, but I'm seeing him more and more often, and it's pretty crazy. So, like, he's Iron Man. He was in Iron Man 3 as, like, this side character. He played Dr. Dre in Straight Outta Compton, and he was also in The Walking Dead. But he's the continuation of 24 series with 24 Legacy. He's the main character in that show also. Right. So he's just blowing up. I don't know what happened with this guy, but I would never have thought that this guy, the first time I saw him, that I can remember just seeing him regularly, is in The Walking Dead. But he's such a weird looking character because he has like dreads and everything. So it just like doesn't even look like the actor. But like he's just been doing a lot of stuff. It's pretty crazy. John Ortiz is Victor Nieves. He was in Alien vs. Predator Requiem, which is just an awful, awful movie. Public Enemies and Silver Linings Playbook. Now, normally in this situation, I would just stop talking about different actors, but I'm going to continue this list on because I'm so irate about this list. So, Tianjing is San, who is in Police Story 2013, and she's in that Great Wall movie. She's barely in this at all. And I recall them saying her name once. That's it. So I don't even know how she's up higher than Toby Kebbell in the listing, who played Jack Chapman and Kong. So he's playing another ape because he was also in Dawn of the Planet of the Apes. He also did Wrath of Titans and Warhorse. And then you have these next two actors, Jason Mitchell as Mills, who played Eazy-E in Straight Outta Compton, who's in it way more than anybody in these last, 3 or 4 actors I've named. But he's towards the bottom of the list. And then you have Shea Whigham as Cole, who was in Boardwalk Empire, Fast and Furious, and The Lincoln Lawyer, who's also in it way more often than the rest of the last 4. I just, don't understand how that happened. It's just like you got these really lesser known actors that just didn't get any billing at all. It's so weird.
And I hate saying this, but there's a reason why she would be listed higher, and that would have to do with sending the movie overseas.
Yes,
and that's just a real common thing, and agents always negotiate for higher billing.
Yes.
Even if it's 4th or 5th to where you think it doesn't even matter, their name's not going to be on the poster. But there were a lot of names on the poster for this movie.
Yeah, there was.
So,
and I'm sure the poster is different when they go to because obviously this is something to do because the market in China is gigantic. Right. And they love the Hollywood movies, and so it's not uncommon for these movies to do different, like to build something different the way than it is in America, because you just kind of want to suck more money out of there. And so I just thought it was really weird in this movie that it's just like there's actors that are in the movie a lot that are just like at the bottom of the list. It's just really strange.
Yeah, I mean, Pacific Rim is a really good example of why they need to exploit those markets, because it didn't do well here, yet it made plenty of money overseas.
Well, the one that's even worse than that is Warcraft. Warcraft made no money out of it. I think it made about $30 million or less in the U.S., but then it made like $280 million the first weekend in China. Like, just ridiculous difference. So I definitely understand why they do it as from a business standpoint. It just seems very strange. You got anything else for these characters, man?
No, let's get right into it.
All right, okay. So let's take a really quick break here, and then we'll get into the quirks and likes. All right, Jones. Now we're back for our quirks and likes section. So let's go ahead and get right into this. So the first thing I want to say, that's probably my biggest problem with this entire movie, and I'm not sure if you noticed this or not, but it's like everything in this movie is really clunky story-wise. It's almost like, because they had this is one of those issues that you have when you do a movie this way. You have a lot of characters, and you have to bring them all together. And so the very beginning of this movie is just them going to different locations and just trying to get everybody together into one group. And that does not flow very well at all at the very beginning of this movie. And then once they get into the island, Kong takes a bunch of them out and they all get split up. So then the rest of the movie, you're going back and forth between these different groups until they eventually come back together, and it's not smooth at all. Like, the transition between the beginning, the middle, and the end of this movie is really clunky. And the whole time I'm like, it's just, everything just seems disjointed. It doesn't seem like the flow is there as much as it should be. And so that was probably my biggest issue with this movie overall. A part of that problem is there's a bunch of scenes in this movie where they attempt to make you feel for the characters, and it's not quite enough to get it done. Probably the one that you care the most about is Toby Kebbell's character, but he's barely in the movie. So they have this like Dear Billy thing that's happening through the whole movie, which is kind of a cool way to get you to care about this character, but he's barely in the movie. So you don't really go on the journey with him, and then when he dies, you kind of care, but that's just weird, right?
Well, you care, because he's the soldiers. I mean, they should have gone home.
Yes.
They it was the end of the Vietnam War, and he had been writing this letter to his son who he never met.
Yes.
And so it was one of those things to where the rest of his company, the rest of the soldiers, knew that he was writing this letter to his son, but he really hadn't gotten past Dear Billy. So the thing that is devastating about it is the fact that I think all of the soldiers were taking that on as their own. It was something to unite them while terrible things were going on. And so it is probably the more devastating loss. But you're right.
But
I mean, Toby Kebbell's a good actor, and we just don't get enough of him, I think.
You know what? I'm a firm believer in that also, because the thing is he's been in, he definitely has the black mark on his career because of Fantastic Four. So.
Okay, well, that's really tough to hang on the actors, I think.
Yes, it is, and it's really unfortunate that even happens with him, because it's just like you're sitting there and you're like, man. So like he's definitely been in some movies where he's like actually pretty good, and you're right. As far as Hollywood's concerned, we kind of just don't get enough of him, even though he's actually a good actor. One of the reasons why he's like, I know that he's so good is when you watch something like Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, and he's just fantastic in that movie. Even the really weird character he plays in Rock and Roll is actually kind of an interesting character. It's just that in this movie is symbolic of that, because you get a hint of him, but you don't get anything else at all from this character. So you have that thing, like you're saying, that unites everybody together because he's writing the story, and clearly he's been writing it for a while because they're all kind of making fun of him about it. And they keep mentioning it, they keep saying Dear Billy, so on and so forth. So it's something that does that, but you just want more of the character. I feel like he should have survived closer to the end of the movie, so you got to know him better, so that you could feel a lot more. Like the loss would have been way more dramatic, I feel like. But that's not what you got. So it was just like that was such a hard part of this movie with that. And that's a big problem with this movie in general also, is just you can't, some of these characters you don't even know their names because they're not said very often, and they're just kind of, they flash in and out, which is what you get with Corey Hawkins' character, you get with Jian Ling's character, and it's just, you just don't know these characters that well. And those are some of the ones that survive to the end of the movie.
Correct, yeah, and that was actually one of my quirks. So, when I left the movie theater, I couldn't remember any of their names, and I think maybe Conrad was the one that stuck with me, but that's inherently an issue in an ensemble cast where, maybe the movie isn't really about them, and
yes.
and so I'll talk a little bit more about that in a bit here.
No, I think you should go ahead. Just go ahead and talk about that.
Well, so here's the thing. This is sort of 2 points I had. It's weird because I have this, I'm torn on this. I have this in my quirks column and my likes column.
Okay.
This movie is a part of Legendary's Monsterverse series. So a lot of people may not realize this.
Yes, there's a bigger story among all of this. Yeah.
Correct, yeah. So this is heading towards a movie, Godzilla versus King Kong. Now, they don't ever at any point refer to him as King Kong, and I don't know if they'll actually get to. I'm not sure how the licensing...
the thing is the way they do it is they do it in a way where they say he's king here.
He's right, yeah.
That's how they deal with it.
So anyway, I mean, that's sort of besides the point. We had the Godzilla movie already, and I think a lot of people don't know that. Godzilla was only in, that was the what's that actor's name who played Quicksilver?
Oh,
Aaron
I don't remember.
Something Taylor.
I can't remember his name.
So, all right, the guy who plays Quicksilver and played Kick-Ass is in that movie.
Yes.
And he's like the main star. The movie is really sort of a slow burn, and Godzilla is only in it for something like 16 minutes.
Yes.
Of screen time. And it's really, I remember talking about that movie. That was really perplexing to me. That is the same universe that this movie takes place in.
Apparently, yes.
And they don't address it until the post-credit scene, which no one was sticking around for.
I did not either.
Yeah, so you didn't. The audience didn't, because I was the only one in there. and the thing that's weird is the Godzilla movie that they did for this Monsterverse series is that's the first one, and it's a modern day movie. So the timing of this, the fact that it's in 1973 or 1974, I mean, that's a very big gap, to have these two monsters meet up, and stylistically they're two totally different movies.
Well, I think because you're talking about how Godzilla was modern day, right?
Right.
Well, in this movie, they specifically addressed that Kong's still growing.
Correct.
So
that's the one thing they do.
That's where they deal with that issue.
So but I mean, he's also on an island. I mean, they're like, it's just the feel of it. This is more of a fantasy type movie, and the Godzilla one felt like, it seemed to be a bit more of a drag. Like if Godzilla really attacked a city,
yes,
and like there was just nothing you could do except follow around this one movie star who never smiles. I mean, that was sort of my takeaway. So this movie tonally is a lot different because it's lighter in in many areas.
Yes.
But so here's where I'm torn. We had the Godzilla movie that barely had any Godzilla.
Yes.
We had a Kong movie where he was definitely the star of the movie. It becomes really clear because all these other characters, like you were saying, you don't remember their names.
No.
And I'm torn about that because my gripe is almost always that the movie needs to be about the monster. And this was a movie about the monster. And I think in that way they got this correct.
Yeah.
But but then I think, well, they should have trimmed this cast down if that's what they were going to do. Yeah. Because they have a lot of big names and they have a lot of characters that they still try to get you to care about. And as you were saying, it doesn't quite hit home. And that's because there's so many of them. It's an ensemble cast. And really the thing that you want to see is Kong. And the very first scene, I think where he's taking on all the helicopters, we got a brief glimpse of that in the trailers, but that's a much more elaborate scene.
Oh yeah.
Than what they showed, and it's a much more devastating scene. So right away, Kong, I think, he's larger than life, and he immediately takes over the movie to where these actors, maybe with the exception of one of them, doesn't matter, and so I'll get into that in a little bit.
All right. Anything else?
No, I just...
you want me to continue here?
Yeah, sure, go ahead. Sorry, I didn't mean to take over your
No, I wanted
segment.
You to keep elaborating off of what I was saying, because we're both in agreement here that this is kind of like a weird little issue, so I like the conversation. Really, the only other thing I have, and this actually also has to do with these characters, so it kind of latches on to what we're talking about anyway, is I was really upset about how the Colonel dies. Like, he just... the Colonel was probably one of my favorite characters because he was such a weird, like, he was kind of like this, almost this extreme version of a colonel, or like a, I don't know, maybe he was a lieutenant. Either way, it was like the guy where he's about to sacrifice himself, right? And in that process, the monster just hits him away and he gets blown.
Oh, okay. So you're not talking about I'm not talking
about the Colonel. I think he was the lieutenant. But the thing is with that being there, it's just like, why is that scene like that?
it's like, not as satisfying as it could be.
No, it's like, if you wanted to just kind of be a funny thing, then you need to go towards that. If you want it to be an actual dramatic thing that you lost this character, then you should go towards that. But it's somewhere in the middle, so you're just pissed. And that's
right. It's not like, had he at least wounded that thing.
Yeah, had he at least just wounded it, it would have been one thing. But he didn't even do that. Like, it would have been nice had he just wounded it, like hurt its leg or something, and that in the process kind of helps Kong defeat it. But really, he just gets slapped away, hits into a mountain, blows up and dies. Right. Just like,
so
that's
here's
terrible.
The thing, folks. I think it's a learning. That was a learning. Plus, he was the guy with all the grenades.
Yes.
It sucks that he didn't hand some of those grenades to those guys.
Exactly.
Don't go to a skull crawler and skull crusher and think that you're just gonna blow yourself up and take it with you because it's got other ideas apparently. Yep. So I think that should be on a poster and it should be cast out.
Just a little PSA.
But you're right, because I mean, a lot of the actors, a lot of the characters, their ends, the way that they die is so quick, and it's almost out of nowhere.
Yes.
And you're right. That character made it so far, and his sacrifice was pointless.
Yes.
And that's the thing that really, God, to be the screenwriter and to write it in that way, I mean, I would just be laughing maniacally. I would want to watch opening night. I would want to watch the movie with an audience just to drink their tears.
That's terrible. That's all I have, man. So let's continue with yours.
I think okay, so it's weird just expanding on what I was saying earlier, because I had written this down. Like having Shia LaBeouf in the Transformers movie, I think is a really good example of, it's a Transformers movie, I want to see Transformers.
Yes.
But there still needs to be that human element. I just don't want to see Shia LaBeouf. And
well, the thing is
that was sort of the comparison I made.
Well, your example is perfect because Transformers have been around since like the 80s, right?
Yeah.
And there's always been the human element there, but the Transformers have always taken center stage. So like they're the one that's important, not this other thing. They're just supposed to be the side humans. Thing, and the Transformers supposed to be the main characters. It's kind of the same problem we had with like the first Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie, where we came to see Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, but really it's a story about April and Megan Fox.
Okay, that's a real good. And so I felt like that they started to fix that with the sequel.
With the sequel, they started fixing it. Yes, they did. And I don't know, maybe that happens in the continuation of this universe, but it would just make sense that if you're going to continue to do these monsters universe type thing, that you would have them more center stage throughout this. But I know that what you're talking about is your like weird qualm about this because they have all this human element in there, but Kong clearly is the star because everybody, you don't remember their names.
Right.
They just die in ways you just don't care. Like it's just one of those things.
Right. Once he comes in, he takes over the movie, and actually, I think that's fine. But I want to see the I don't care about the humans at that point. Yes. And it's weird. The movie. This is one of my other quirks. It almost has like a Jurassic Park feel to it because they start introducing all these other things, and it's a really cool and scary place. Like what a cool little world that they've walked into that these guys just aren't prepared for.
Yes.
So they just don't even stand a chance, and I guess that's one of the things that's a little bit annoying, because if that's going to be the case, I felt like they didn't use Tom Hiddleston correctly in this movie.
Well, I think they didn't use a lot of the characters correctly in this movie.
Yeah, that's fair. Okay, so that's fair. So if that's going to be the case, where everything on the island is dangerous, they were talking, and there was a comment even made about the ants. And I was so pissed off that we didn't see any ants.
Yeah, you didn't see any of the ants.
But
just that one statement actually reminds me of another scene that really ticked me off, and that's that spider scene where all of these clearly this spider's far bigger than them being clustered in a group. Those legs should not have been that, like, there's no way that thing spread out would be, because they're all clustered in a group, but being afraid of these legs stomping down, right?
Mm-hmm.
But the spider's huge, and the legs are spread out. There's no way that them clustered in a group under it could even have that happen, right?
Well,
that just doesn't even make any sense.
It's tough because I think there's the way that they were filming it, which sort of felt like which was definitely a cross. It was a cross. It was, it was the way that they filmed it was like a horror movie in those scenes. So it was a little tough to get perspective because you were under the creature the entire time.
Yeah, but the problem is they were close together and under it. Like there's scenes where they're clearly right next to each other, and they like zoom out, and again they're like clustered together. So it just doesn't make any sense how that they would constantly be having this issue. But it's just the only one that makes sense is the first death because he was lagging behind, and the person that lags behind always dies. So I just want to get that off my chest.
All right. So anyway, they've got this guy who's a tracker, and he's former British SAS, so he's supposed to be a badass. Well, Tom Hiddleston looks like a badass.
They managed to make Tom Hiddleston look like a badass, right? Like they did do that.
But the thing is, it's because of the way they shot him, the way that he's standing and he's holding a gun. I mean, these guys don't stand a chance against any of the creatures.
No.
And yet they keep firing bullets, and I suppose that's what they're supposed to do. That's natural, but I don't understand why they keep pressing forward when it's clear that their weapons are this ineffective against everything on the island.
Yeah.
I mean, not just King Kong. And it's weird because Tom Hiddleston is a tracker, and they never actually show him using his tracking skills.
Well, they
say it. Here's the thing. They say
there are scenes where he is tracking.
Well,
it's like one or two scenes.
If what you mean by tracking is playing a game of follow the leader, then I agree with you.
There is a specific scene where he reaches down and there's like this mushroomy stuff on the thing, and he's like, water is near. There's a scene like that in there, but that's like the only scene.
It just isn't. I'm grinding my teeth over here. All right. So the rest of my stuff is one of the things which this is such a perfect Samuel L. Jackson line, but Brie Larson's character gets in the way, and she tells the Colonel to wait.
Yes.
And I don't understand why he bothers listening to her, and why he didn't just blow the damn thing, blow up Kong.
Yes.
But he says something like,
he says, bitch,
shut
please.
Up, bitch. Right?
No, he says, bitch, please. That's what he says.
Bitch, please. Okay, right. That's such a Samuel L. Jackson line.
It's only in there because Samuel L. Jackson.
Because he's in that movie.
Yes, that's the only reason why.
And so I like it, but I hate it at the same time because it makes sense for the period, but Hollywood is so PC anymore that I love and both hate that he says something so demeaning to her.
Yes, it's incredibly
I love it
demeaning.
And I hate it at the same time.
But the thing about it is throughout this movie, one of the things that you get from this movie is you just learn to hate Samuel L. Jackson's character throughout the entire movie, and that's towards the end before he dies.
Right. That's right.
It just kind of is what it is. Like you just progressively hate this character. Because he's just like, no, I don't care that Chapman's gone. We're still taking this thing out. And they're like, what the hell? Let's leave. And he just doesn't want to leave. And since they're all soldiers, they're following him. Other than that one guy who didn't need to be there at all. Which, like, he was one of the scientists that was there.
Okay. Yes.
He's not even a military guy.
Right. No,
and I don't know why he didn't go with the rest of the civilians. There was no reason for him to continue on with them. There just wasn't a reason to do that. So it's just such a weird thing.
So that was the other thing. You had mentioned, the pacing and everything, and it being really clunky.
Yeah.
Two of the plot points which I think needed to be condensed. There were two companies. Like there was a company going anyway.
Yeah.
That isn't related to Monarch, and they don't explain this company at all. But it ends up their whole team gets taken out because they were on the larger helicopter that Kong swallowed or whatever.
Yeah, he
and
tore it apart.
Yeah, and there's the other team from Monarch, which is supposed to be a company that's like on its last legs.
Yes.
What I don't understand is why they bothered introducing two teams. Why it wasn't just a Monarch team. The reason being, the scene at the end of the movie, at the end of the post-credits, almost makes John Goodman's role and everything they've talked about like not make any sense. and what I mean is, he's supposed to be a nut job.
Yeah.
And yet he's got one assistant who's following him around.
Yes.
All he's doing is talking about monsters. No one believes him. Even the people at his own company don't believe him.
Yeah.
And then in the post-credit scene, you find out that this is what Monarch does. They go after monsters, and they have proof that, Mothra, that Godzilla, that, all these other monsters are out there across the planet. And everything that they say about this character, Randa, that the other characters say throughout the course of the movie, that, he's crazy. I mean, he lied to the Colonel. He didn't tell him everything that he knew. But it just blew me away because, he sort of gets vindicated in a way, which doesn't make any sense.
No, it doesn't.
And I think that's it for me as far as quirks, buddy.
All right, okay, cool. So let's go ahead and get into the likes here. So the first thing I want to say is that when we talked about the trailer, we were trying to figure out what was the chance that Samuel L. Jackson would die in this movie. Because we both thought it was about a 50-50 chance because we did the previous movie and we had a count. And it was something like 23 or something like that, movies that he's died in. And even back then, I was like, when we were talking about that, I was saying, like, it's kind of a weird thing because it has this Jurassic Park type thing because it's an island full of things that shouldn't exist. So there's a chance that his character's just going to die in this movie. And so he does. And I just kind of just liked that about this because we were both just kind of like, yeah, he's probably going to die. The other thing I want to say is with Samuel L. Jackson's character is when they're taking off in the helicopters, he says a Jurassic Park line, which I just loved so much. He specifically is going through this checklist, and he goes, and at the very end, he goes, "So, hold on to your butts." And I was like, yeah, right there. That Jurassic Park line, it was in there. I just enjoyed that stupid little...
so good.
stupid little line. I loved it.
Hold on to your butts.
Samuel L. Jackson has... He has turned into... Like, he is the only actor that his persona in movies has essentially transferred over into a ton of other movies. It just is what it is. It happens all the time where something that's very Samuel L. Jackson happens in a totally different movie. And it happens all the time. Like, that's just how he is. It's just, I'm just amazed at how often that happens with Samuel L. Jackson. It's kind of like even when you get the Incredibles, that he has the scene that's very similar to Die Hard with a Vengeance, type of thing. Like, everybody, he's an actor that's an okay actor, but he's aware of where he stands on things, and Hollywood is too. And so it's just like a constant joke throughout all of Hollywood. It's absolutely ridiculous.
Embrace it.
Right?
You need that character in the movie. So you write Samuel L. Jackson in.
Yes, right?
is essentially what you're doing.
Exactly. The other thing I liked was I really enjoyed that character that I can't remember, but Cole, who I think was I think we decided maybe he's a lieutenant or whatever, but he wasn't the colonel. That was the one I mistaken. But I liked that character because he was such a weird type of character, And I just loved the interaction he had with Mills the whole time, where he's just like, "What are you doing?" He's just like eating beans after this ridiculous thing that just happened. He's like, "How do you have an appetite now?" And he's just like, "Hunger's for the living." And just like, he just has these one-liners. He's just such a weird character, but I just love every scene he's in. The last thing I have to say about this is, I have to say that I enjoyed this movie far better than the other King Kong movie that Peter Jackson did.
Oh, ooh, you're onto something there.
So that Peter Jackson's King Kong movie was like really long, because that's Peter Jackson anyway.
Right.
And then it has one of the worst ending scenes
it does. Yeah.
In a movie ever, with Jack Black.
Oh, you're gonna do the face. Are you gonna do the reading? You've done it before, and you've gotten it spot on.
With Jack Black at the end, and he has this dead stare that I can't stand at all. And he just looks in the camera, and he's just like, "'Twas beauty that killed the beast." And that's it. And you're just like, that's how the movie ends. And you're just like, why is that in there? And it is just the most annoying scene.
What a thing of beauty. I said this last time. I wish everyone could watch while you do a Jack Black reading the end of King Kong.
Because it annoys the heck out of me. It always has annoyed me. And that's essentially what's left over from that movie. Like, it's really long, and it ends with that, and that's the only thing I take away from it. And it's just like the worst thing.
Right. Well, why tell a 2-hour story when you can tell a 3-hour story? Is sort of the Peter Jackson motto.
I mean, geez, King Kong is on that tower for like half an hour.
Yeah, he's
and
on
that's
that
not
tower
even an
for
exaggeration. He's actually up there for like half an hour. It's ridiculous. Anyway, that's all my likes. What do you got?
Yeah, well, I like this movie. You know, it's interesting. It sort of falls in between fantasy, adventure, and horror all at the same time.
Yes, which might be one of the issues with why it's kind of clunky. But
right. Well, yeah. Okay. Well, but I mean, I think a lot of that could have maybe changed had they just focused on
specific characters. Yeah, which is why Jurassic Park works.
Yeah, and you remember Dr. Grant and Ian Malcolm.
Yes.
And so I think that's a good model to look at. Obviously, they felt like they, for whatever reason, needed more, just simply to have them die in cool ways.
Yes.
I think for being a monster movie, this checks everything off that I would want to see in a monster movie.
Yeah.
So I just don't have the same issues with it. I really liked it. It's funny in some scenes. It's actually probably too funny.
In some scenes, it does seem too funny.
But I mean, who doesn't love laughing? Followed by a death out of nowhere. So that's kind of how they, and that's almost like a Joss Whedon approach. A character says something funny and then they die in a way that you just don't see coming.
Oh yeah.
So I really like that. We got a lot of Kong, we got a lot of monsters. And that's what I want to see. I don't want to go to a monster movie and walk away thinking, geez, I could have used a few more monsters.
Yeah.
So I really like that. This was I really felt like all the acting in the movie was really very solid. And that's one of the things that comes with getting a cast that has a lot of experience. But, I mean, you made the point earlier that we either need to see more of some of these characters or less. And if it's going to be a more thing, a different story has to be told.
Yes, it does.
But I really felt like, for some things that are just, for a movie that relies so much on visual effects, I felt like the acting was pretty solid all the way around.
I can see that. It seemed like it was okay. I mean, I think they definitely made Tom Hiddleston look like a badass, which he's never really been shown to do at all, ever, in any of the movies I've seen him in. So that was impressive.
Yeah, I mean, well, he looks like a movie star.
He does. He looks like a great movie star in this one.
I think it's a shame, and I'm just going to say this, and I don't care about the backlash, but I think it's a shame that you have a movie with Tom Hiddleston and Brie Larson, and you wait until the very end to show off Brie Larson's body, and that they aren't having and that they aren't having jungle sex somewhere in this movie.
Wow.
Is a seriously missed opportunity, and I don't even care. Let's just go down into the filth. For the end of this here, Kong looked great. The visual effects were incredible in this movie.
Yep.
But we don't get to see his dong. We don't get to see Kong's dong.
Do you need to see Kong's dong, really?
Kind of want a reference to it, at least. Like, oh my God, have you seen one that big?
You're ridiculous. You're absolutely ridiculous.
Just, all right. That's it.
You're absolutely ridiculous.
That's it for me.
We need to rate this movie right now because you're losing control. All right, so.
Not even ridiculous. It's all on our minds. It's on everyone's mind.
That this movie is. I think it's a fun movie. I think it's entertaining. I think it's I think it's just a fun movie, right. And I think that seeing Tom Hiddleston as a badass was also a nice thing to see. But I'm still going to say borderline rent it. I'm going to say rent it on this one.
Borderline rent it. All right.
I'm leaning towards see it, but I can't do it. I'm going to say rent it.
I say go and get your monster on. It's a guy movie. It is not a kid movie. So
no. Although there were kids there.
There were a lot of kids in the movie theater. So, this is definitely on the other side of PG-13.
Yes.
Not on the other side of PG, which is how a lot of these movies are. There's blood and you see people die.
Oh yeah.
From death from monsters.
Yes.
Go see it. Scare your kids. Scare the shit out of your kids and go see it.
All right. Let's sign out. So if anybody wants to contact us.
All right. Let's sign out.
We always have our home on the web, halfpastpodcast.com.
Like us on Facebook.
Rate us on iTunes and Google Play.
We're on Stitcher and Libsyn.
Email us at halfpastcast@gmail.com. That's halfpastcast@gmail.com.
Tweet us at halfpastpodcast.
Thank you for listening and thank you for your support. Next week, actually 2 weeks from now, we are going to see Power Rangers. That's our next movie coming up.
Okay. Well, I am quite proud that I was able to get Kong and Dong into this podcast. Really. I think this is the one we need to submit for awards.
You gotta be absolutely out of your mind.
Everyone's wondering now. Everyone's wondering about it.
You're absolutely ridiculous right now. I don't even know what to say to you right now. This is the Half Past Podcast.
I'm going to shave your head.
Nope, we're into it. This is the Half Past Podcast. I'm Graham Ricks.
Jonesy.
See you next flick.